From a remote cabin deep in the woods of western Wisconsin, this is Radio Free America. Welcome to the GRG88 podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the GRG88 podcast. It is so great to have you back. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be back.
Wade.
Glad to be back, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us at this wonderful location in Webster, Wisconsin. And Mark Lee, my producer. Mark, why don't you tell the viewer one of the episodes that you first starred in?
We did a segment, an episode called The Tracks of Our Lives.
We've got some new guests here, and they have tracks of their lives that are completely different than Maneater, for example. And I know, Wade, this song caught your attention when we were...
I like this song. The classic story of the guy meeting the wrong woman and yet falling for her anyway. We all know who these women are.
I've done that, huh? Right?
Sadly I have. But Mark, with that silky voice, that can't happen that very often. That can't happen that often to you.
No, not at all.
You have a radio voice.
Do I really have a radio voice?
Yes.
I don't really think that.
You have the face to.
Well, I've definitely got a face for radio.
All right, well, with that said, let's move into the show here. We were talking about this a little bit on our walk earlier today about a very cruel summer that I understand happened in the 1984 timeframe. I'm going to turn it over to Mark for a little intro to tee this up.
It was the summer of '84. Babe Ruth baseball. The creation of the evil empire that was like gas.
Not everyone can be a winner, Mark.
The world needs ditch diggers, too.
And I guess that would have been the VFW team, huh?
Tell us a little about why that turned into a cruel summer for you.
They were basically the Yankees of Forest Lake Babe Ruth baseball. And somehow, some way, they were be able to create contracts and get ringers like Mike Moorhead, the Rambolts, the Bances, the Hermeses.
It was the green machine.
They were basically, the Mets. But nobody came close. And I just personally want to ask Wade what it was like to be a player on that team.
I was lucky to have been selected in the draft where I was. I came in as a free agent with no contract, no ties, anybody.
But Wade, I understand that there was a bigger deal there, and I heard that there was a really good play made.
Well, there was a runner on third, and he kept taking a very, very liberal lead off of third, thinking he would steal home. And every time he kept inching closer and closer to home base, Tom kept on looking down at me. Tom was the catcher, and so we waited for the next pitch, and as soon as the pitch came in, he threw a rifle down the third base line, grabbed it, tagged the runner out, and it was awesome. No coach called the play. Nobody told us what to do. It was all instinct. And it was really fun. I remember that as being one of my highlights of that year. But that's the sort of fielder I was. I was an instinctive fielder. It was my moment of glory.
Now, Jason, we're going to segue into a different little genre here of our show, and that is we're going to cover life tracks. So these are the 1980s bands, the music videos. We're going to do some concert analysis, and I understand you went to a pretty seminal concert. Tell us a little about that when you were a junior.
That was my first real concert I ever went to, my first big arena concert. It was me, Mark Lee, and Craig Peterson.
And I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, the venue was the St. Paul Civic Center, and it was April 19th of 1986.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, little known fact, though. So that concert was the first concert tour that Van Halen did without David Lee Roth as the lead singer. So Sammy Hagar had just came on as the lead singer, and he was very popular at the time. And Sammy had a very successful solo career with his own band, the Red Rocker. I Can't Drive 55 was probably his biggest hit. Comes off the Voice of America hit album, and now he's with Van Halen. It's like a perfect storm. Two of my favorite bands become my first favorite band. It's like bacon wrapped shrimp. It's like my two favorite foods together.
So I remember this song being very important to you. I played it one night at a party. That party actually led to us and our Boundary Waters trip getting canceled the following week.
Life is about choices. You make choices that
and disappointment.
Yes. So we made a choice that night to party like we were older than we were. And, we suffered the consequences. We made up for it later, but it did. That was our senior year, and we went out with a bang, and we did not get our fun trip. But we made up for it the next year after our first year in college, and we
I never caught so many northern in my life. We busted out laughing because we couldn't pull them in fast enough. Finally, we just let the canoe beach and let's just laugh and enjoy this moment. And I still have a picture from that time. I was freaking sunburnt. I had my rain parka on, and you're like, you need to see what yourself looks like right now, and you snapped a photo of me.
I'm almost positive it was pouring rain on us while we were fishing.
Yes, but it was super fun.
They were super hungry.
It was my second major concert, I believe.
Would this have been your first, or did you not go on this one? Remind me.
You know, you never forget your first, Jeff. And ZZ Top was,
You're rough boy, Mark, for sure. They would play this at
they
the
would
dances.
they
It was a
would
classic
play
slow song.
Rough Boy.
Yeah.
It's a great song to just snuggle up close to a young gal and kind of hope for the best.
9th grade at Southwest, and I sure wanted to dance with Jill Hansen. I remember that being a pretty good moment.
And you went over and asked her?
Well, at that very moment, we kind of turned, and there we were standing there, and Ed just said, "You two should dance," and so we did.
This kind of sounds like
good.
a John Hughes movie right here and there.
9th grade.
9th grade right there. It's
That
just
was
like
a
boom.
defining moment.
All of a sudden, the lights on both sides.
Yeah.
Koosh. All right. What do we got up next there?
Well, I thought this would be fun to just revisit the 80s. We've got some videos in here, and we just wanted a reaction, but I thought she had a nice kind of cute 80s look to her. What do you think?
She does.
Okay,
does. I
and
like that.
later she's going to transform.
Well, this concert was the Afterburner tour. So as we are watching this, this is legs off of the Eliminator album. And this was the sellout album for ZZ Top, but it also was a great album. And not being a huge fan of ZZ Top, I did appreciate their music. And the concert did not disappoint. It was pretty cool.
Wade and Jason have both been taking in the video while you and I have been bantering. What are some thoughts that you're seeing here, you guys?
I haven't heard a damn thing you two have been talking about because I'm just looking at the video and it's pretty darn good. I forgot how this goes.
I'm going to
it
tell you
funny?
right now, it's pure fantasy, and it never works out that way.
I know how she's going to transform, too.
Hot women never come to the aid of nerdy guys. They just magically gave her the keys, and God knows you'd never give your girlfriend the keys to that car. And here she comes.
I love that move
Look
right
at
there.
her.
I
80s
love that
miniskirt.
move.
Woo! Yeah. Little known fact about ZZ Top. The two main guys in the band both have huge beards. And the drummer's name is Frank Beard, and he's the only guy in the band without a beard.
I did not know that.
Now
fact.
you do.
That
You're
is
welcome.
so ironic. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, this was the stage. And the stage, while we were at the concert, transformed in front of us.
That was like the mid 80s when the space program was probably at its peak, and there was a lot of interest in the space shuttle, spaceships, and this is kind of a microcosm of that.
I think that's excellent analysis.
I love it.
I never thought of it that way.
Nothing but the best, nothing but the most current technological advances here at the GRG88.
In fact, Mark, doesn't that seem like a good segue into one of our sponsors for the show? It seems like it would be.
This year's sponsor is Glenn Fodry. And we have been enjoying this afternoon this fine bottle of cask Speyside single malt scotch, 18-year-old non-chill filtered. It's a smoke cask, and let me tell you, it is amazing.
It tastes very good at a cabin or at a place called Horse Creek, like
Yes.
at a bonfire.
Well, on June 7th, 1987, I was working that morning at the Forest Lake Hardee's, and I was fortunate enough to be able to come across 2 tickets to Bon Jovi.
Do you remember how those tickets came about? Or because I just got a call from you that
It was
morning.
a coworker who all of a sudden couldn't go. And next thing you know, it was like they offered him up, and I'm just like, oh my God, hey, I got to make this happen. Called my good friend Jeff to see if he was able to free up some time to go to this concert. And the only problem is that we had to figure out how to get our asses down there.
The way Mark got his mom to finally agree to free up her car. Mom, this would have been like seeing the Beatles at your age when you were 17, and then
Oh, for God's sake.
that was what made her free up her car. But luckily, then my dad felt bad and freed up his brand new truck, so we ended up taking
You
that one.
tugged on their heartstring.
You might be going, well, gosh, you saw Bon Jovi. Why are you showing Cinderella? Well, Cinderella had a very important opening.
They opened for Bon Jovi on this concert, so it was Cinderella, Bon Jovi, and basically Cinderella just knocked that shit right out of the park.
And if you ever attend a concert, try to bring Mark Lee, because he's an encyclopedia of knowledge with regard to his bands that he follows. And so he's educating me pre-show about Cinderella. You talk about a warm-up band, everybody is standing on their seat and the lights go on because they need to now change the stage over to get Bon Jovi up. And this guy is walking up to get his beer, and Mark's standing on his seat going, yeah. He grabs you and he's like, dude, wait till Bon Jovi gets out here. And they like hug. It was like this bonding moment.
And
This is the miracle at the Met.
if that would have been me, I probably would have made a pee spot in my pants.
Then Bon Jovi came out, and we're playing Wanted Dead or Alive, where they filled the stage with smoke. Richie Sambora comes out with sort of like a Wild West setting, and then John Bon Jovi comes out. So it was pretty awesome.
So Jeff, that's a perfect example of what concerts in the 80s were not so much about how good or bad the music was. You build an aura around your presence, your performance, your whole experience that is your band that just drives sales.
One of the best things about this concert that I do remember was my concert t-shirt. Bon Jovi on the front, but on the back of it, it said, "We came, we saw, we kicked your ass."
They sang about everyday shit that everybody could identify with. It was hard rock. It was good stuff, and everybody liked it.
Wade, we're going to just bleed a little bit into your life tracks, because the very first song, and we played this earlier, and it's a great song.
Oh, yeah.
But Wade, tell us a little about this song that we're hearing right now and how it relates to your family.
This is probably about 1980.
Look at him. He's going back and
1979 or
forth.
80. And we would play in the basement and dance all night long.
We'd watch great TV shows that were wholesome family entertainment, like Little House on the Prairie, for example.
Jesus, that run for like 1,000 seasons.
Yep.
But you know,
Good
there
family
was another
entertainment.
show that, Wade, tell us about this one.
I could not watch Dukes of Hazzard because they made fun of the police officers, and Daisy Duke's shorts were way too high.
Woo-wee!
Everything was just about the Dukes of Hazzard.
Cars,
Was
hot
Conniving,
women,
the best.
They were fun.
bows and
debauchery,
arrows, dynamite, and liquor.
moonshine.
This was my very first concert. What you're seeing here, Jason, and I know you're intrigued with it, that is an Aladdin's lamp. Now watch how Jack Blades, he's going to actually point at one side of the stage, and pyrotechnics are going off all over. He then signals his drummer, Kelly Keggy, after he grabs his bass guitar. But I loved Kelly Keggy for this drum part, and this is called 7 Wishes.
One of the lead guitarists or rhythm guitarists was Brad Gillis, and he was also known to, he was the first replacement for Randy Rhoads with Ozzy Osbourne.
Summer before last, I actually got a chance to see Def Leppard for the first time, and a huge fan from the 80s, one of the biggest bands of all-time 80s band, rock band. It's pretty hard to miss. They still have it. I mean, they got to be in their 70s, and they cranked it. And this song, it might be one of their biggest hits. They're in their 70s, right? The whole U.S. Bank Stadium is going off the rails, and everybody's singing, everybody's just going nuts, you know. And how do you not think that the 80s was not the greatest music ever in the history of the world?
You can't think that. It was.
It was.
This video, actually, I saw at Dan Zemke's house. We did not have MTV, and I remember this video came on, and I loved the whole setting. Go
This
ahead,
is an
Jason.
unforgettable guitar lick, Jeff.
Yeah,
You know immediately who this band is when you hear that.
it's true. And our plan was to try to go get U2 tickets, and we were able to stay in line. We had been there for so long, like, these seats are going to be so crappy. Dave and I decided let's duck out of here and go back a little bit. And we did. We went back maybe 10 yards. And all of a sudden, announcement, U2 will be playing a second show in Minnesota. Everybody just broke out in applause, and we were close. And I'm like, these are going to be great tickets.
Probably one of the most impactful moments that I've had at a live performance was this particular concert. Not only did they have probably one of the coolest openings, what I will remember is when they did Pride in the Name of Love. That was the first time that I experienced an incredibly just emotional gathering of 15,000 people all jumping, and just there was something very electric about those few moments that I'll never forget.
They took a difficult moment and made it positive.
Yep.
That's what this song's about.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite songs from them, and then my favorite song from them I think is Bad. Edge's guitar work on this is just, it's haunting, and it's just the way he goes back and forth with this. And it's just, when I was going to St. Thomas, I was still living at home, and then after school I would go to work until 9-10 o'clock at night, and then I'd have to drive home. And a lot of times this was actually a song that I would be playing going up 35.
So they ended the concert with this great song. It's called 40, and a lot of people, I don't think, understood it, and I didn't even know what 40 meant until Wade illuminated the fact that it was the 40th Psalm. And I just remember the band slowly melted away. Larry Mullen Jr. stayed there playing the drums to back up the crowd, just singing this chorus. It was a very magical moment for me, and I'll never forget you guys for attending with me. Thank you.
Amen, brother.
Amen,
it was
brother.
good.
All right. Well, with that, I think, Jeff, the time has come.
Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the GRG88 podcast. I'd like to thank my guests, Mark Lee, Jason Petrucheski, and Wade Hermes. Keep it real, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.